The great thing about acting is, unlike athletics, there is no shelf life. As long as you can memorize, um, every role I do is an accumulation of everything I've ever learned. And if I can come into whatever it is now and come out the other end of it a better actor in my own mind, then success.
I think to start, just how did this project come to you? How did you get involved in this?
I did a Zoom meeting with David Kelly and Regina King. I had read the first episode. I said, I'm in. Wait, because, and I've been focusing like this with my agent and manager for like 10, 15 years. Surround yourself with good people, if you're lucky enough to be able to do that. Start with the writing, and David E. Kelly. So I don't need any, that's it. It was like with Sorkin, that's it. And Regina had won an Oscar for acting, so you're good there. And Tommy Schlamme, who's a veteran TV director, he was originally with West Wing, and I mean, he was the other guy, so the three of them. So I said, I'm in. And I didn't know how to do it. I said yes without a clue as to how to pull this off, which is kind of where I'm at now. I'm risking failure, which is fun.
So what was it about the character that sort of eluded you when you were reading that script? I mean, what was complicated? What was difficult to sort of imagine getting into?
Well, in Star School, you are taught that less is more. And this is not less is more. This is, first you got to come up with that accent, which is going to piss off half of Atlanta. But Tom Wolfe, based on the book Tom Wolfe wrote in the late 90s, he describes that accent as large, just like Charlie. Larger than life accent. And when he gets revved up, nervous, the tell, you can't understand him. So it has to be that thick at times. And then the other times it has to definitely be there, and you have to get away with it. It has to be believable. And so that was that. And then to be that, again, more is more, to be that large in a close-up, how do you do that? And you're threading a needle, and you have to be big and believable. You know, I go back to people like Peter Sellers and Strangelove. I mean, that's a great example of somebody who went way up and didn't get caught winking at the camera or, anything like that. I mean, that's hard to do. It's easy to stare off at the Rocky Mountains and let the sun set and count to 10. And that's how, I've done that. 1, 2, 3. You got to have your wheels turning. So I have added numbers up too. 16 plus 8 is 24, minus 5 is the... Cut it, Jeff. Brilliant. I know. So, but how do you go that big with Charlie Croker in a close-up? And I'll go back to whatever theory of acting I've got and developed since Circle Rap off Broadway. I've kind of morphed it into this is what I do, and I have come to half of your performance is in the other actor. We're not taught that. We're taught you and your internals and your objectives. And next thing you know, you're acting in front of a mirror. And then put that lens there, and that is a mirror. And so all you can see is yourself. And I remember Woody Allen in Purple Rose, he said, the closer that camera gets, the more you pour it into Mia Farrow. You adore her. The closer it gets, the more you adore her. And if you do that, the camera will go in. But if you don't, if you're acting, you're going to lean into that lens. You're going to start to go that way. And next thing you know, it's still fine. It's great. but the camera doesn't go in and see the wheels turning. And that's, Winger taught me that on terms. She said, film acting is with the eyes. And, you grab things like that along the way. But you got Charlie Croker, and it's tight at the end of that conference table. You got this ass, I tell you what, you going what? And we would get done with takes. And I would wait for Regina King. Did I say she has an Oscar? I waited for her to come around the corner and go, okay, real good, just brilliant. Let's try one little less. Just not so much this time. And never happened. Never happened. So I looked at Bill Camp and Tom Pelfrey. I said, don't leave me out here. Come with me. And they did. Those guys rose up, and it kind of set a tone too. I come in off book, and I got that from Newsroom. You are not allowed to change a word of Aaron Sorkin's script, which is fine. That was like New York theater. I didn't tell Lanford Wilson that I was going to rewrite his speech a little bit, so I was used to that. But it's TV, and you got to hit it on 1 and 2. We don't have 10 takes for you to warm up. And so if you can hit it on 1 and 2 with no rehearsal, that means it has to happen in front of the camera. And Bill Camp, Tom Pelfrey, they said, oh yeah, we're all over that off the book thing. So when they rolled camera, that was when it happened for the first time. That's when we heard each other. Because you have to listen now. It's not rehearsed up. It's not you're not waiting for him to stop doing what he's doing or whatever. And the different angles, and you kind of, next thing you know, you're doing it 10 times. But that, I love the danger and the magic of it happening in the first take for the actors as well. And if you're all prepared, that's when film acting is at its best, I think.
So did you talk to Regina before you got on set about sort of this bigness that you imagined? Did she talk to you about that?
I said, I'm coming in big. That's all I said. I'm not a big, the directors love them, they're terrific people. But I don't expect that. I don't need that. I'm not coming in needing you to help me with this. I'm going to come in and show you what I think it is.
Have you ever kind of imagined a character in a certain way and got to set and like a director's had a very different vision for that character? And what has that kind of conversation been like, if it's ever happened?
That was early. But that was just directors over directing. The thing is, I just need to know what time it is. I don't need to know how a watch works. There's that thing. But it got to, and a lot of this was TV, and it stems mostly from Newsroom. Because you get a different director each episode. And so I just didn't want the 30-year-old trying to be Orson Welles. And I'm going to really help Jeff with his performance on this episode. And, so Sorkin said, anything you require, what's your process, how do you like to work? And he had said, don't change a word. And I said, I'm good with that. With the directors, 5 words or less. So I'm happy to do whatever you want after take 1 or take 2, because this is me showing you what it is. And then if you want me to do it a different way, if the writing's good, it's pretty evident the road you're supposed to go down. That helps. So that eliminates this kind of, you're doing it in yellow, I want it in blue. That doesn't really happen if the writing's there. But if you can't explain it in 5 words or less, stay in the chair. And they do. They'll come up and go, like the Newsroom speech, Northwestern. I hit it on the first take, and then Greg Mottola, the director, came up, Sorkin came up and said, well, you're pitching a no-hitter, I'm not going to talk to you, and he walked away. And then Greg Mottola, who is the director, great director, came up and said, okay, on the first take you did this and you did, I said, no. Don't tell me what I did. Tell me what you want me to do next. And he said, okay. And he had heard the 5 words or less. So he says, more melancholy. Basically wish the country could be the greatest country, and here's what you think it, so instead of anger all the way through, which I was on take one, then drop it back, and you can see it in all the other angles. You see this kind of sit back where Will just wishes it could be, and if we didn't do this, we could just, you could see it. And then, after the second take, we had a series. We had 2, 3, and 4 of HBO sitting over there. It was day 3 of shooting the pilot, 18-day shoot. We don't have a series yet. And there's 2, 3, and 4 of HBO. There's Sam Waterston and Tom Sadowski drove out on their day off to see it. Sam Waterston, great friend, said later, I just wanted to see if I had a job or not. Because that's what it was. It was, do we have a Will McAvoy? And that speech was written into the pilot after the fact. The pilot script didn't have that speech in it. And then Sorkin said, we need to see what happened at Northwestern. You're going to get a speech in a couple of days. And he handed me that speech, and it was an Aaron Sorkin speech for you. He said, can you learn that? I said, well, Aaron, I've been waiting 35 years for this speech. So yeah. But that's kind of how I do it. But that's just me trying to come in and save a lot of time and be totally prepared, more prepared than anybody on this set. I don't believe in sides. That means you don't know them. And if you're memorizing the lines in the makeup chair, that means you don't know them. And guys like me will notice that. And on Newsroom, we would do take 1, which was like the speed limit. And then take 2, we called it Sorkin speed. Now you're driving 80. And the day players were like, whoa, careening around the corner like that. But that's you got to know it so well. You got to know it like it's the 100th performance of a Broadway run. It has to be second nature to you by the time you shoot take 1. And that's just a lot of work at home.
Unlike most of this audience and you, I am not an actor, which is a good thing. I watch a show like this. You have so many lines in this show. How do you learn lines? What is your process to actually be off book?
Alan Arkin taught me something way back when. We were doing a Christopher Durang half-hour thing for PBS. It's like late 80s. And Alan Arkin was directing it. He was one of my acting heroes. And we did the first reading with no choices whatsoever. Maybe people do this. No, none. You're reading a grocery list, the whole thing. And then he said, when you memorize it flat. Try not to act your choices or get caught up in it before you can roll them. So as you're saying this line, you're seeing the next one, seeing the next one. I talked to Allison Janney before I did Newsroom. I saw her at a thing in New York, and I said, how did you guys memorize West Wing? Because I told Aaron, I watch West Wing to watch the writing. And she has, and I don't know the name of it, this memorization technique where if you have a line like, I refuse to remember, but that doesn't matter, right? There's 3 R words. I refuse to remember, but that doesn't matter, right? And then I'll just start repping them. It's not unlike athletes who practice that play hundreds of times and then can do it in the game once, when it's called. It's the same thing. And then I kind of tag those words together, and if there's something similar in the next sentence, I'll circle that. And then it's just trying to hear the melody and hear the rhythm, and that's where the good writing comes in, because there is a melody, there is a rhythm to Aaron Sorkin, to David E. Kelley. It's in there. Tom Wolfe, it's in there. It's in every good book you read. There's a rhythm, there's a melody. And once you find that, then you just try to marry it and just and I'll go walk the dogs, and it's just repping it. Try not to make acting choices yet until you can say this line and think of the next one, and you know where you are. And then you can start to add in the acting choices, because then you start going in two different directions and you forget the line, and so that takes a long time. And then I'll also lay in bed and I'll see the line on the page, and quietly, without waking my wife Kathleen, I'll quietly just say the line, and I'll read it off the ceiling, so that when you're doing it and you're looking at Bill Camp, you can see it. I don't know what these are called, but they're mind games, mind tricks, but the essential thing of it is reps, 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 and then flying through it. Now do it way too fast, like a grocery list. See how fast you can do it without flubbing a word. And then you're ready. Now you can start to, how am I going to do it?
Does it go out of your head as soon as you're done with a project? Does it go out of your head as soon as you're done with the project? Do you remember stuff later?
No, yes, it does. It's gone. I don't know. Maybe that's age. Maybe it's because, like television, in particular, you're doing episode, do it flush, do it delete, do it on, delete. I mean, it's gone, it's in, it's out, it's in, it's out. So I don't remember any of it. I know actors who can, I did Hamlet in 1978, and they break into the fucking speech. And I just don't know how I can't remember last week.
So then, you also had to create for Charlie this character with this strong Southern accent. Where did you find the accent?
I just went online, and I saw some. We have that now. Well, I don't do a lot of accents, but then I'm going, I can find this one, and if I can't, I'll get her to get me a dialect coach. And then they get their hands on you, and it's like, okay, all right, okay, too much information, thank you. But there were some senators, Southern senators, that were telling a 5-minute joke at a luncheon, and you're thick, I tell you what, we going down to Baker County, and hell, and you're going, I can find that. And so you find the music in this guy, and then I had permission to blow it up, to go further with it. So I knew I could exaggerate it like Charlie is exaggerated, and that would be okay. I didn't have to do a dead-on impersonation of someone. So.
And what about the other parts of the character too, like your walk, the way you hold yourself? Like
There was a walk?
yeah, I think there is kind of a way that you walk in it.
Well, a lot of it is then the internals come, because once the accents start, once you kind of know the lines, you can roll them, then you want to become him. You don't want to just act him. I'm performing. You want to inhabit. My thing is that I think like he does. I start to think like Charlie does. So, yeah, coffee'd be good. Yeah, up to it, And you start to think like him in real life situations without embarrassing the crew or anything. And then now all of a sudden, if he's walking into that meeting thinking he's worth, everything that they say he is, but he isn't, and he walks, and you're big, you're proud, you're up, you walk in, chest is out, and you sit down, and then when you get in trouble and you're going to fight Bill Camp's character and you stand up, and the whole thing of the jacket coming off was just something that happened. But it was me thinking, Charlie, fucking boom, 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 like that. Next thing you know, Regina's going, I like that. That's good. That's good. So you kind of let yourself go and stuff. Now, I also had that knee that is, Charlie gets his knee replaced in like episode 3 or 4. So I had to kind of arc that out, the pain, and then the knee replacement, and then the rehab. So, I had some ornaments on the tree, as they say, that I could work with. But basically, you just kind of want to let him take over. And that's where the between the action and cut thing gets fun. You're not getting, Regina was great, and she let me go. And if you come in like that and you just let it go, and you got Bill Camp and Tom bouncing off me, you're using them, she's just grabbing it out of thin air, you know, and you don't even plan everything. I mean, you're both going to kind of go, you know where the arc of the scene is, you know where you've got to get to and all that. You're both smart enough to know that. And the writing's right there, you can tell. So you just sing it together. And next thing you know, they're saying cut and they're moving the camera. And you're going, well, I guess that's what's going to be it. Some of that came from Clint Eastwood. I did blood work with Clint, and famously, Clint only does one take. And so you come in ready, but it also that allowing yourself to be okay with what you just did if it was real and authentic and believable and you bounced off the other actor. That's a great take. You don't need to drive home beating yourself up for that thing you wish you'd done on the fourth line in the scene. I spent a lot of years doing that. Fuck, if I just done that, you know? And then Clint go, that's good, that's all we need, you know? And you're going, so if you land the plane in the first take, boom, 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 and it's real, and they just happen to be shooting it, you're done. It's okay. Just be believable.
Do you have like a perfect amount of takes? I mean, do you prefer, one seems like pretty extreme. Would you like more like 4 or 5 or?
2. It's time. It's just time. And if they want me to do something, can we do one more just on that one thing? I want to get that line. Sure. Yep. Okay. And 3, and great. But often it's been 2 takes and Jeff, I'm done. Okay, we're moving. Crew loves me. Crews love me. And so do producers. If you can come in and hit it on 1 and 2, and they're happy, trust me. Other producers talk to other producers.
How about though with maybe there's another type of actor that really likes to do a ton of takes and a lot of coloring. What do you do with that when that happens?
It is explained to them that when you're number 1 on the call sheet, you get to kind of determine how we're going to do this. So best to come in completely prepared and not expect to be able to do 7, 8, 9 takes. And that's just, I mean, that's the power of being number 1. And we would, you know, I've done it ever since Newsroom, all the shows I've done. It's kind of, that's what's expected, and you know, 95% of the people do that. There was one guy on Newsroom, didn't know it, showed up, and he even had the sides down right here on the other side of McAvoy's desk, and he would look down and just shake his head and then come back and all that, and the director came over and said, "I'm so sorry," and because there was no pace, you know, there were pauses, there were this, that, and I said, "It's okay. Don't. I have to piss on him anyway." So, I mean, McAvoy, I just beat the shit out of him in the scene. I just used it. And then they called his agent and said if he doesn't know his lines on Monday, he's fired. So, it's not asking too much of us to come in prepared, ready to work. Not asking too much.
You were talking about being number 1 on the call sheet, and I imagine that carries with it like a sense of responsibility. You have to kind of set a tone. So who are some people that you worked with maybe earlier in your career who showed you how to kind of assume that mantle of responsibility?
A lot of them have, I certainly don't want to make out that I'm the one who invented this. I'm not. Meryl comes in off book, ready to go. Nicholson will come in off book, ready to go, and then wants to play. This goes back to Terms of Endearment. I mean, it's decades ago, but that was an education because we had the time to do 10 takes if Jim Brooks or Jack wanted to do it. And Jack would pull into the driveway first day of that Jack was shooting on Terms, and it's Jack Nicholson. I wasn't even working. I went to the set just to watch. I'm 28, you know, and he pulls in and cut. He waves at Shirley, does it again. Cut. Jim, yeah. Should I wave like this or should I wave like that? What do you try one the other way? I think I'll do that. And he goes back. Jack's working with the director, you know? It's like, oh, okay. And then Jim Brooks let me come in and see dailies. He wouldn't let me watch mine, which is great. I don't, as a rule now anyway. But you want to see Jack and Shirley in the kitchen where he has the big speech where he gets angry at her and says, I'm one of 106 astronauts and don't you forget it, something like that. And we watched the first 5 takes where they kind of felt each other out, knew it, didn't quite know it, started to really know it, and now Jack's putting in the emotion. And it was basically they had the time and the money to rehearse on film. And so that was watching the two of them. And take 6, Jack hits it. Take 7, Shirley hits it. Take 8, Jack and Shirley both hit it. This is just the 2-shot. We're going to cover them. And then Jack hits it in a different way on 9. Then they hit it a different way on 10. And that was the end of the 2-shot. And Jim Brooks turned to me and goes, which one do I use? You know? And what you're doing in that case, if you've got the time and the takes, okay. And they want you to try it different on 3, try it different on 4. Okay, just make it as believable as you can. If you respect the director and you think you were going to this, great, do it, just do it. You don't know. It's guesswork. I'm hitting 1 and 2 because we don't have time. And so I'm going, this is me, and this is me controlling my performance, and if we don't have time to do 5 takes every time, then great, then I get to control the performance just like you would on a Clint Eastwood movie. They only got the 1 choice, the 2 choices, so that's it, and so they aren't going to go play around and kind of smorgasbord your performance from 15 takes. But if you've got that time, it's in your best interest to give them some options. Speed up the speech, slow it down. Take a pause there, you know. Do some variations on it because it's guesswork. You don't know. And I've been in editing rooms. I did 2 indies where I wrote and acted and directed, and you get it in the editing room and you would kill if I had just done the speech a little slower because it would work better with the way I'm cutting it. But if I'd given myself that option, I've got it in take 6. And that's what they're doing. They're trying to get the pace and the rhythm and the music of the scene. They're going back and forth with other characters, all this stuff. So if you've got a few more takes, you can spin it just a little bit differently just to give them some options. And next thing you know, might you surprise yourself, and on take 4, bang, that was even better than what you did. But at least you're giving them options.
Obviously, you want to be ready and you want to be prepared. So before you start shooting a scene, are you like, you know, hunched in a corner, talking like Charlie, or are you listening to music? Like, how do you kind of get in the emotional state? How do you make sure you don't lose the character so that you can hit it the second that you know, the camera's on you?
If I gotta cry, then stay away from me. That's the only time that I'll kind of, you know, go dark and just let me know when you're ready. You know, and there are a couple buttons in me I can push that'll get me there within a minute. So it took a long time to learn that. But generally speaking, I just kind of don't do any of that. I trust that he's going to be there. And so that when you get in the chair, you can feel it. And when that camera hits, this is showtime now. It's like Broadway. The lights go down and the spotlight hits and you're going to step into it. And it's just, there's a getting ready to do it. And then you just get out of the way and let him take over. I was doing Mockingbird on Broadway, and I was in it for a year. Thank you. I was in it for a year. And I was in the 7th month, and Brian Dennehy, who was a great friend of mine, I saw him at some Tony thing, and he had done year-long runs. And I went up to him, I said, Brian, I have 5 more months. How do you do it? He goes, just let it take you. It's like dominoes, just let him take you. Just step onto that stage and let them just start to take you through it. Don't try to do it. Don't manufacture it. Just one moment at a time. And that's theater. So that's what you kind of want to do when that camera comes up and the film rolling, and then next thing you know, you're kind of leaning into it, and that all you have to worry about is that first moment. If you're prepared, if you know the lines and the thing, and that's all back here. But you just hit that first one and you just start skiing down the hill. Ideally.
For something like that, though, you have the audience, right? You have that energy, I would imagine, to feed off of when you're on a film set or a TV set.
Some nights you have an audience.
When you're on a film set or a TV set, what is that like? I mean, is that more difficult? Is it more difficult when you don't have, this to play to?
Here's your audience. You've got 100 crew people. And it's not that they're going to laugh or anything. It's on you now. It's time now. It's opening night. It's New York Times sitting right there, right now. And so if you can't get motivated for that, again, the Northwestern speech, this is the only day we're shooting this. You don't get to come back tomorrow or next week or anything like that. So you can feel that opening night kind of thing with just the way they put the camera and the cables and the 150 people and the other actors off camera, safely off camera. And here you are right here, and it's money time. It's money time. And I've told the story, but Nicholson, when I met Jack on the set of Terms of Endearment that first day, and they took me over to him, and he was very nice, and he said it in a nice, almost fatherly way. He said, "What have you done?" And I was 28. I said, one movie, and some Broadway, some off-Broadway, And he said, "Well, this ain't Broadway. This is the pro game." And it's about, and that's not to belittle Broadway, because opening night is opening night, but the money. It's the money that it takes to make this movie. It's the money that will happen to you if you are in a hit. There's the money that will happen if it's the #1 movie in the country, like Terms of Endearment was. There's the Oscars. There's all of that. It's international. But the big thing is that it's money time. It's having to get that base hit in the 9th inning with the bases loaded. You have to get a hit. You can't, not today. You have to get a hit. You have to hit it. You have to do your absolute best work right the fuck now. And that's what he meant. And I learned that from him, and really kind of, just attacked whatever, even if it were some supporting, which I did a lot of supporting roles. I just came in ready to serve the story, not you. We don't care about you. We care about the story. And when you learn that and can do that, then you're ready on take one, and you can go home happy that you were a pro.
When you do a show like A Man in Full, there's a lot of mortality, aging. These are themes that are in this show. Do you start to think about it in your own life? I mean, do you start to feel it when you're taking on a character like this?
It's there. I mean, you use it. There are scenes, few scenes. Yeah. I can't remember whether it's Man in Full so much. But yeah, if there's anything you can pull from you, yeah, you're fair game. Use it. Use and abuse yourself. And I understand, especially with the generation now, it's all about being safe and not wanting to be comfortable. And that's terrific. That's wonderful. There's a lot of this industry that needs to be better. But actors need to be fearless. Actors need to jump off the cliff, fall apart in front of a camera, and then figure out a way to pick yourself up as you walk back to the trailer, after you're done. You have to go there. Otherwise, we'll get somebody who can. That's the era I came from.
Does it get easier as you've gone on in your career?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's yeah. You just the great thing about acting is, unlike athletics, there is no shelf life. You as long as you can memorize. Every role I do is an accumulation of everything I've ever learned, and if I can come into whatever it is now, and come out the other end of it a better actor, in my own mind, then success. You great, keep pushing. And that's why I keep risking failure and challenging myself with roles like Charlie Croker and Godless, you know. I mean, Atticus Finch, I'm taking on Gregory Peck, for Christ's sake, you know, risking it so you come out the other end of it better. And the day I don't do that, or you know, you get some movie where you go, I've done this already. But yes, it's a lot of money, so I'm in. You know, I'm so far I have not been able, I have not had to do that. I've been challenged, and I think that's partly because of my agent and manager have been so great about getting me with great people, and then coming through, and pulling it off. And I mean, that A Man in Full was, again, a big risk, and I remember calling my agent and saying, Eddie, this is either great or you're going to go, what the hell were you thinking, you know? But that's kind of where I want to be now. And if I can pull it off, then next thing you know, they're thinking you can do anything, at least for, you know, another year.
Well, I think
I didn't answer the mortality thing is, yeah, you use it, and yeah, it's definitely, it doesn't take much to press that button.
Well, will you join me in thanking Jeff Daniels?